So my name's Thomas, and what I'm going to walk you through today is a very common issue with Husqvarna branded chainsaws. Outstanding chainsaw, but unfortunately the only downside to them is they're a little bit of a nuisance if you ever have the chain brake engaged and the side cover accidentally comes off, whether it falls off or a customer tries really hard to prise it off and then they try and reinstall it, it won't go back on, and that's a safety hazard. So what I'm talking about is typically a customer will be using the chainsaw, they'll be cutting a really small limb or a vine, or the chain will become loose and they'll continue to use it, and while they're using it the chain brake will engage, and what that does is this piece on the saw goes forward, and what it does is it locks down on the sprocket, which is actually turning on the motor crankshaft, and it prevents the chain from moving forward or backwards. That's a safety device to prevent you from getting injured. What happens is when that occurs, the brake that's inside here clamps down like a brake band, and that prevents the sprocket from turning. However, a lot of people don't recognize that, and so they instantly just see that the chain is off, they need to fix it. They can't figure out how to fix it, so they start with this device by pulling this off, and they really have to work really hard to pry this off because that brake band's applying so much pressure. So I'm going to show you quickly how to fix that today. So the first step you need to do is you need to remove the side cover. So simply on this one I just have one bar nut. A lot of chainsaws will have two bar nuts. So I'm just going to use my standard scrunch here. I've already loosened the bar nut, so bar nut comes off and the chain brake cover comes off. And what we're dealing with here is, you can notice that this is the brake band here, this silver lining. And what this does is it clamps down on this. And this is the sprocket, and this is what actually turns the chain on the saw. So when this clamp is tightened up, it applies pressure on this and prevents the chain from turning. So what we want to do is reset this apparatus. So what we're going to do here is we're going to remove the bar and chain. What you'll notice real quickly is that this pattern here jives with this pattern here. And so what happens is when you push forward on this or backwards, it activates by turning and loosening this device here, which will clamp down or release the chain brake. So what we're going to do is simply, with the chain brake engaged on this device, that's preventing it from going on flushly, is we're going to attempt to install it on the saw, and we'll notice it doesn't go very flush. It sits kind of awkward. It sits out. This piece you can see here is bulging out to the side. We don't want that at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply firm pressure with your right hand here. I like to pull on the dog paws here. Just be careful, they're a little sharp. And then you're going to take your left hand and you're going to push forward all the way. Then once you've got that done, you're going to pull back while keeping firm pressure here, and you should hear this pop. Once that's done, you can release everything, and the chain brake is now disengaged. You can see that the brake has now come all the way back up against the plastic here. Earlier it was offset just a little bit. So once that's done, feel free to go ahead and reinstall the bar and chain on the saw, and you'll be good to go.